Hello and welcome friends to a new episode of our Warhammer 3 narrative-driven and modded campaign playing as Aranessa Saltspite and the Pirates of Sartosa. Now, as a reminder, I am using Nanu's Sartosa Overhaul, which makes the faction more human and mortal base. The thing is, it also adds dwarf and also ogre pirates, and I will admit that I personally think that is more lore friendly to what Aranessa's whole faction should be about. If you disagree in the comments, do let me know, and also let me know as well if you've had the chance to play with Nanu's Sartosa Overhaul. But also, we're playing with a whole bunch of other mods that adds various new factions as well for us to interact with, not just declare war on, but potentially be convenient allies for. And also, speaking of modded factions, to recap our campaign, we are at war with the modded faction of TILEA. I believe it's added through Kataf's Southern Realms Overhaul. And we did win our first major battle, taking out the first army, which included the legendary Lord of TILEA and also taking Lucchini for ourselves too. Now, the reason I decided to occupy it and not just sack it, well, because I don't really have that much campaign movement, so I decided to use it up and also take it for myself, which I do plan to sell to the highest bidder. Who knows, I might actually even sell it back to TILEA if they have the money for it. But going back to our main army here, we did take quite a bit of damage to our Sartosan pirates, but in the previous episode they absolutely demolished their artillery and also did their job of rampaging across the enemy lines and providing a good distraction. Now, for the rest of our troops, they did mostly remain intact, including our zombie pirate gunners. We did lose our frontline zombie melee pirates, but also we were able to preserve our human forces as well, which I do plan to use my full might on beelining to the capital city of Miragliano. Now, I do have reasons for why I want to beeline to that capital city and not Verezzo. The thing is, Miragliano is literally on the doorstep of Skavenblight, and I know Ikit Claw is going to be an absolute menace for us later in the campaign. I do know some people have allied with Ikit Claw before. Do let me know in the comments if you've played Sartosa and have decided to ally with Ikit Claw and the Skaven, or declared war on him. I do plan on declaring war on him before his Skaven corruption gets into my lands and also conflicts with my vampire corruption. I also believe that taking him out early before he becomes a real threat to myself or some of my potential allies, and yes, I do maybe plan on making some diplomatic ties to not Thoric Ironbrow, Belagar here. Now, it does seem semi-impossible just because of the aversion, but you never know. Speaking of diplomacy, we'll get back to that as well, just because I do plan on using diplomacy to join distant wars and also earn money from joining those wars. So let's go into the diplomacy screen. We have the Sultanate of Araby, which I also potentially plan on using as a convenient ally, maybe even selling some territories too. They also have some aversion to us, but not as much as, let's say, Britonia. They're also at war with the Strigos Empire, which I do plan on declaring war on them and joining their distant war with them. Rapunz will probably wipe them out in the next turn or two. Knights of Origo is also a modded Bretonian faction that was added, I believe, in either Mixu's Unlocker or potentially the Dukes of Bretonia mod. As for Clan Angron,
vengeance will make me happy. Is that what you offer?
We'll declare war on the Crooked Moon mutinous Gits. Get 2,000 gold from that. As for the Ironclaw tribe, I think I might actually declare war on the Army of the Golden Scarab, also getting over 2,000 gold from that as well. Bloodmaw is at war with Gashniga, which is also a Southern Realms faction here, but it's led by a fellow vampire count, which also, ironically in the lore, isn't a huge fan of his own kind. Actually, correct me if I'm wrong, I think he is a Strigoi vampire, so one of the more bestial vampires. But it looks like he's not a big fan of the top-notch greenskin, so we'll get 2,000 gold from him, declaring war in that distant land. Fingers crossed none of these factions decide to go across the map just to get to Sartosa. Sartosa is a pretty defensible city, though. And yes, we are in a peace treaty, apparently, with the Strigoi Empire. However, let's go back to Raponce. We'll probably lose some reliability rating, but at the same time, everyone, we are pirates. We're not necessarily known to be trustworthy, and as much as I also want to try to be semi-diplomatic, because I do want to roleplay as a very opportunistic ally, I'm not going to necessarily side with the Ordertide factions, but I do plan on here and there helping them out once in a while if things are in both of our favor. If not, sometimes I might side with the Chaos factions like the Skaven. Maybe not necessarily Beastmen because of how treacherous they can be. Alright, just a little under 2,000 gold. I would say yes, as long as they wipe them out in the next turn or two. And also increase their likelihood of not declaring war on us. Alright, so like I said, we lost some reliability there, but to roleplay it, we are pirates, so very opportunistic. And let's take a look at our income. Alright, we have over 8,000, and also we're going to get 1,000 in the next turn. As for my army, the temptation is there right now for me to recruit some Sartosan pirates. And in the next turn or two, possibly go into Force March in order to get as close to Miragliano as possible, although in that turn, I don't think we'll be able to recruit. Although, hang on. Do let me know in the comments if you think that this is too conservative of a move or not really thinking too much ahead. I think I'll save up on my upkeep, make a force march across the sea to Miragliano, and yes, I know I won't be able to recruit the next turn. But then I'm also using a mod which does, well, it does coincide with Raise the Dead mechanic. It's a local mercenary mod that allows us to instantly recruit troops at the cost of it being more expensive than waiting a turn. Alright, actually, I think, you know what, just to make this as thematic and fun as possible, let's recruit some Slayer pirates. I know stat-wise, it does look like they're a whole lot better than Sartosan pirates, but their upkeep is definitely going to be a bit more. Then again, like I said, I do want this to be an entertaining and thematic campaign for you all to enjoy. But we'll end the turn there. Also, before I do end the turn, we do have military convoys available. That is also another mod that I really enjoy with this faction, basically sending ships across the world to do diplomacy and trade with. Similar to the Chaos Dwarves convoy and Cathay's convoy mechanics. And also, with Aranessa's horde building mechanics, we are going to build a basic wooden hall, mainly for the casualty replenishment rate and also increased pirate crew capacity. Definitely the top gallant royal for that campaign movement range, because like I said, we are going to make that beeline for Miragliano, and also the minus upkeep as well. And to level up Aranessa, I went with Season Captain and Pirate Lord. I know usually I tend to go for the blue line first and then focusing on the red line skills, but also I was looking ahead at the blue line skills and they do seem semi-useful, but also at the same time I really want to make Aranessa's build for this campaign a support lord that buffs up a lot of her units here. Alright, we'll end the turn there. I am going to fast forward as well to us sieging Miragliano. And yes, I know this was quite a lengthy intro for the recap and also campaign diplomacy, but also let me know in the comments below if you like my edited cuts of leaving out some of the fluff and then fast forwarding to important parts of this actual campaign, like making important decisions and also of course, the battles themselves. Alright friends, we are fast forwarding to the Siege of Miragliano, taking our very replenished army fresh off the seas, and not only that, we are going to raise some undead forces to act as cannon fodder. Deckhand's mob will do just the trick for us, and even though it says decisive victory, I will fight this manually just because I want to reduce the amount of damage to my living forces. Like I was saying, I do have plans on utilizing all of my zombie units as cannon fodder, and my plan is to use the siege artillery to rain fire on the walls, use up all of my ammo there, have my zombie hordes tire out their army, and if need be, sending in my living forces to clean up the scraps. I also do have plans on using my Prometheans as my secret weapon, potentially even my Sartosan saboteurs to attack the weaker side, and also have all of their forces commit to one side of this siege battle, with my saboteurs and my living Prometheans, mind you, coming around the back end and then breaking through the gates and then taking key positions there. I may also send in my Slayer pirates and also Sartosan pirates as well once we've breached through the weaker gap as well. Now, taking a look at some of these forces we're going up against, my main concern is actually, well, it's only just a crossbowman, but also the billmen for halberd infantry. Even though they are listed as anti-large, some of these new units added to the Southern Realms mod actually, such as the half-pikes, have charged defense against all. And also, if we take a look here, push of pikes, melee attack, plus 20%. Basically, I think this is kind of the mod author's way of bringing back how strong pikes were in the previous Total War games. But enough nitpicking with that. Let's get into the battle here. And actually, before we do that, I know I'm delaying it quite a bit. I do realize that there is a growing army here in Varezzo that may threaten Lucchini, but I'm also planning on selling Lucchini back, well, not back to the Tileans, but also, like I was mentioning before, to the highest bidder, which actually might be the border princes, which we have encountered. They are way up here in the northeast area of the map. And also, they may lose their war against one of the ogre kingdom tribes up there too, so they could essentially be my little puppet state. Alright, but let's fight this battle manually. I'm going to be very strategic as well and micromanaging my forces here. Like I was saying, zombie forces take up all of the damage and also tire out the enemy, and then living forces come in and clean up the scraps, and we are definitely going to bomb the shit out of them. Taking a look at the battle map, I have split my army into various control groups. The main one that I'm going to probably rely on the most is going to be this combination of Prometheans and Slayer pirates. Slayer pirates with surprisingly fast speed for dwarves, and also the monstrous beasts of the Prometheans with some pretty good speed themselves. I'll be using them as a hidden force to attack the West Gatehouse, breaking it down and beelining it immediately for this key building here, before moving on to the Victory Square, and then later on grabbing some minor supply locations and other victory locations too. Now for the rest of my main army, I have split them into zombie control groups 2 and 3, and these are going to essentially just going to be my cannon fodder. And speaking of cannons, I'm going to be using my Sartosan cannons to break down various sections of the fort wall, and I'm specifically going to be targeting the fort walls just because of the fact that I want to create multiple openings for my army to break through. I really want to try to preserve as much of my main human army as possible because, like I said, roleplay wise, we're the kind of pirates that will be opportunistic and using the undead to our advantage, and also using our human forces to wipe out the remainder of their actual units as well. It's kind of like the mirror opposite of Vlad's vampire counts, where he uses the humans as auxiliaries and just cannon fodder, and using his zombies as the main force, but our human army is our main force and our zombies are cannon fodder. But anyway, enough with the rambling. We'll get started here on the battle soon. I am going to also semi-rely on my Sartosan pirates and also gunners as well to act as a second diversionary force to attack the East Gatehouse. And even though it's not a direct beeline to the key building, dividing and conquering, and then also I'm hoping that they overcommit all of their forces to the eastern side, so then the western side is completely vulnerable to be taken by my first control group. I know that was a whole lot to explain, but also we'll get the battle started. As a fair warning too, I may be jump cutting a lot during this battle just because it is a siege, and admittedly there may be not so exciting parts like when I'm waiting for my cannons to break down the walls, but I do promise all of you who are watching that I'll be fast forwarding to important key moments of the battle. Alright my friends, we've broken down at least one section of the wall. This one is about to collapse any moment now, alongside with the militia spearmen that are taking heavy amounts of fire, so their front line is going to be absolutely decimated. That's definitely at least half, actually even a little bit more than half health for them lost. I also should have mentioned earlier that I am using this dwarven hero powder cook to replenish the ammunition of our Sartosan cannons so we can continue raining fire down on our Italian enemies, and also it's just going to be absolutely devastating with a near constant rain of fire on the walls here. Alright, and here we have very juicy targets with the billman, armor piercing, good anti-large, and overall just a good solid line holder. And also we might even get a double kill here with the crossbowmen standing right behind them. With this entire wall collapsing, we'll hopefully take out 2 entire units, but we'll see how it goes. An absolute devastation. And the TILEANs absolutely getting devastated with our artillery fire here. Not a lot left for the billmen. Crossbowmen also badly damaged and shaken too. Billmen are in retreat, but also I would say they should be absolutely shattered after that beatdown there. Alright, our cannons are nearly out of ammunition. Well, looks like they just ran out, but we are sending in our gunnery mob and the handgunners to rain fire on the enemy at the moment. Alright, we've breached multiple walls, so now we have a lot of opportunity for our army to waltz right on in. Let's get our zombie pirates into these holes here. Alright, you get in that hole, you charge into this specific hole. And then I'm going to round you out onto the far side, and then while all of you start concentrating fire on these billmen. Just absolute carnage and devastation all across the walls here. Absolutely love the armor versions of these zombies too. It honestly does feel like you have a true undead horde with the variety of different types of undead from various nations. And even the gatehouse is broken too. It's just pure havoc right now for our TILEAN enemies. Alright, start charging through this hole here. Alright, pathfinding is a little bit on the ridiculous side. Alright, let's have you charge those archers there. Charge in through here. And then all of you charge through there. Yeah, crossbowmen may have the protection of the walls, but also very few in number and getting absolutely shredded by our gunners. Alright, and with the TILEANs completely distracted by our main army, we're sending in our saboteurs of the Prometheans and also our Slayer Pirates. They got a little bit lopsided with their pathfinding issues, but we are sending them to take the walls finally. Climbing on top there, grabbing these key locations, wiping out any last remaining resistance that may oppose them, such as these devastated crossbowmen, which no doubt they were completely shot down either from our cannons or just a combination of our cannons and gunners too. And we've also created a kill zone here too with our pistoliers and handgunners. Alright, half-pikes and also militia spearmen taking devastating amounts of firepower. We've pulled back our zombie units, doing a little bit of a cat and mouse game here too, debating them into coming into the kill zone and then also bringing them out as well. And yeah, they're pretty much just floundering about at the moment. Alright, let's get these dwarf slayers charging and taking out these crossbowmen. Alright, how are you guys doing here? Gate health breaking down a bit. Alright, and we've captured a key building here. We're sending our Prometheans to capture the victory location, and also we're going to use our Slayer Pirates to take out any resistance that's coming our way. Thankfully, the TILEANs are scattered at the moment, so they're going to be absolutely shredded with gunpowder while our dwarves hold the line. This was a really good choice to have Slayer Pirates in my personal opinion, even though with very little armor. Slayer Pirates, let's actually have you charge in, start storming their front lines, and alright, we'll take the victory. Quite a bit of devastation to our Slayer Pirates and Prometheans. Zombie Pirates, honestly, well, we were expecting a lot of our melee zombie pirates to take a beating. Gunners also taking a little bit of a beating themselves. We did send our cannons off into a retreat, and also human forces completely preserved too. Alright, and also with that, our MVP of the battle is definitely Harold Hornigold for being able to replenish our cannons, devastating their walls and opening multiple breaches and creating a kill zone for our zombie gunners to decimate their troops, have them flounder about, and also, well, even though Aranessa herself didn't really do much, she was definitely enjoying the spectacle of the battle unfold. Now, even though it does say decisive victory, I will even say it was a close victory because there were a little bit of dicey moments there, admittedly. And with that, my friends, concludes the Siege of Miragliano. With the loss of 421 of our forces, loss of 744 for the TILEANs, completely devastating their front lines and also pretty much annihilating any range superiority apart from the towers themselves. Now, when it comes to our specific losses, like I was saying before too, I was accepting that we would lose the majority, if not all, of our melee pirates, and also even quite a bit of our ranged zombie pirates too. Now, I am surprised at the survivability of how much all of them were able to endure, but also I am pretty impressed with our longer range gunners here. 114 kills on their end, and well, even though it's a little bit lopsided and weird too, with the cannon only having 3 kills. Admittedly too, I don't think the devastation from the walls counted, if that makes sense. But also, Dwarf Slayers, 84 kills, 37, lots of running around, and yes, they are fast for dwarves too. Alright, now, again, that was a siege battle, so my apologies if it wasn't as exciting or exhilarating as the previous battles, but I did admittedly cheese it and also minimize the amount of losses across the board overall. So yeah, it was a very nitpicky battle. I do plan on potentially sacking it, maybe even making this my sack city, and we will wrap up the episode here, my friends. I know this may be a short episode, but I do have plans for more episodes to release. Next few campaign plans I have in mind is to completely take over TILEA and selling the territory either to some of the other southern realms and sort of make peace with them if possible. And also, I may launch an attack on Skaven Blight itself because it is literally on my doorstep. Do let me know in the comments below if you think that is a good strategy, but also tell me your personal strategies that you have in mind for this modded Sartosan campaign. I'm absolutely loving this narrative that we're taking with Aranessa and her mostly human pirates, but also, regardless if you're a new or returning viewer, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this episode, and I would really love to have you join us for the next ones if you're a new viewer too. So remember to hit the like, subscribe, and bell icon notifications, and I'll save you a seat at the table for the next adventure.